On this episode, we chat with lawyer Dave Lawrence about the whole foreigners owning land in Thailand issue.
So if you want to learn a bit more about the history and ongoing debate around this complex issue, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 with a backpack full of maple syrup and a dream, just like the first Canadians did.
That sounds about right. And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 22 years ago, fell in love with Thai people meeting white people as if they've never seen one before, so I never left.
Did something happen? Did you see someone that reacted like that?
No, I mean, this is a common thing. I mean, today I happen to be on this long bike ride, and it's just funny. I mean, obviously you've gone on many bike rides, but just, you know, so you ride through some of these neighborhoods, and the people, the way they react to you, and I mean, maybe they'd react the same if, I don't know if you were Arab or black. I really don't know. But I mean, like some people, when they see like a white person, it's just like they light up and they bust out their English and they say, "Hello, how are you?" or something. And it's like, they make me feel special, Greg.
Sexy man.
Well, not quite like that, but it's just like, honestly, it's like they have an alarm that's just like, right. white person, you know? Yeah.
And when I went on my bike rides and I see a bunch of kids and they always yell out, "Farang, farang." Yeah. I always yell back, "Soporot, soporot."
That's funny.
Means pineapple, because farang means guava.
Right.
And they usually stop like, "What? I think, what's he saying?" And then by that time I'm gone. So.
Well, one guy today on this bike ride, we were going through this narrow street where we had to walk our bikes. And this guy, I'm not making this up, you know, he saw us and we were like, "Sawadee," and he was like, "Hello." And he had a big smile on his face. And as he passed me and my buddy, he hugged us.
Okay, weird.
It was just a random hug from a stranger, just because we're white. I think if we were Thai bike riders, I don't think they would have gotten a hug. They would have warranted a hug.
Yeah, maybe not.
Isn't that funny? Anyway, we want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get our ad-free regular show a day early, behind-the-scenes photos of our interviews, a heads up to send questions to upcoming guests, and access to our Discord server to chat with me, Greg, and other listeners around the world. But best of all, patrons also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and Bangkok topics. On this week's bonus show, we chatted about a new weed mall on Khao San Road, the pressure of keeping up with the constant flow of Thailand-focused content online, and thoughts on tourism coming back, including Greg's experience dropping his mom off at a very crowded Suvarnabhumi airport, and Fodor's recent inclusion of Thailand on its annual No list. To learn how to become a patron, click the support button at the top of our website.
Right, and as always, if you have a comment, show idea, or just want to say hi, head to bangkokpodcast.com, click the little microphone button on the bottom right to leave us a voicemail that we'll play on the show. Okay, well, on this episode, we chat, hopefully for the first of many times, with a fellow by the name of David Lawrence. Now, Dave started out as a chemist, but soon made the leap to the legal biz and became a lawyer. In his career, he's worked across multiple industries and specialities, including international logistics, intellectual property, and new markets, and has a whack-o experience in various legal specialties, including business, corporate, divorce, labor, employment, notary, and property law. Now, the last one is what we want to zero in on for this show, because Dave joined us to chat about the whole foreigners owning land thing, which has been a hot topic of late. And as you'll see, it is a pretty complex issue that goes back further than you might first think. So here is my interview with lawyer Dave Lawrence. Hey guys, before we get started, a quick disclaimer from our expert here. Take it away, Dave.
Okay, thanks very much, Greg. So just so everyone knows, I'm not your lawyer. In fact, I'm not a lawyer licensed or qualified in Thailand, which you need to be Thai and you need to have graduated from a Thai law school, none of which I've done. So what I'm telling you here is based upon my experience and some consultations with my team before the podcast about the topics Greg and I had talked about. And so take it for what it is. Always consult your own lawyer if you have a legal problem or a legal decision to make.
We're here for entertainment purposes only. All right, on with the show. All right, well, we're psyched to be sitting down with our first ever official lawyer on the show, a man by the name of Dave Lawrence. Dave, welcome to the Bangkok podcast.
Hey, thanks very much, Greg. Appreciate having me.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to chat to you. But before we do that, you're a great legal mind, a sharp scholar, certainly from someone like myself, who's a layman in these terms. But just quickly give us an update of who you are and how you came to Thailand and how long have you been working as a lawyer in Thailand here?
Sure. So my name is Dave Lawrence. I'm originally from Peoria, Illinois, home of Caterpillar, and came to Thailand I would say, because of love. I went to law school at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, and that's where I met my wife.
All right.
She was studying there to get her LLM in international law.
Okay. And then when that was done, she was like, let's go to Thailand. And you said, yeah.
Well, no, she said, come to Thailand for 2 years to make my parents happy for all this money that they spent on my education. And then we can come back to the U.S., which turned out to be the biggest lie that I've fallen for in 12 years on now. That was 2010. So 12 years on, here I am.
Wow. Yeah. I think a lot of people, the more people I meet, the more who have been like you and I came here for a little while and was just sort of like, it's all right here. I think I'll stay. And then you die here. Hopefully a lot happens in between. Anyway. So let me get that straight then. So you're not allowed to be a lawyer in Thailand, but you are a lawyer in Thailand. So what is your work experience here and where are you working now? What's going on with that?
So sure, I'm currently licensed in Illinois. I've maintained my licensure now there for about 15 years. And so I am a lawyer and I am in Thailand, but I'm not a Thai lawyer. In terms of work history, so the first firm I worked at here in 2010 was called Limtrone Hughes in Glanville. That was a firm that I worked for about 3 years, started as a senior associate. And like most foreigners here in the legal business, basically what we do is try to sell the legal services of our Thai colleagues, right? We try to sell the firm's services. So our primary role is business development and marketing. But over the time, we get to learn a lot about Thai law through the experience in dealing with our colleagues. So that's where most of my knowledge comes from. Then after 3 years there, I moved to the litigation department of Tilke & Gibbons, where I stayed for 3 years. Then I got headhunted to go in-house for a medical glove company called Ctrong Agro Industry Public Company Limited. So they had a problem with a joint venture partner that I helped them work out. Then after that, I went back into private practice in 2019 with a local firm here and as an equity partner, but that didn't work out. So then COVID hit, and I went back home for 3 months and said, I don't think I want to be a non-lawyer lawyer anymore in Thailand. So I created my current venture, which is a legal technology company called Pegleg Company Limited. And what we do with Pegleg is we sort of serve as a platform for matching expat clients with local lawyers, ones that we've vetted through, who I've worked with in the past, and who I know are good and will do a good deal. And that's so that's what we've launched now.
Oh, okay. So if someone wants a lawyer for whatever, they can come to you and say, where do I go? What do I do?
Yeah, so we have so it's a membership model. So basically you pay anywhere from 899 baht to 4,000 baht per month. And you get included in that package is a list of common legal needs for expats, document translation, visa type stuff, 90-day reporting, wills, just these common things that we don't want to go out of our way to hire a lawyer for because it may be unpredictably priced,
right,
and a pain. Right. It seems like a small thing, but an important thing.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're doing.
Okay, cool, interesting. So it's really exciting to have you on the show because for a long time I've been wanting to talk to someone who knows the legal side of Thailand, and I think I can speak for our listeners. I know certainly I can speak for myself, where I think we have a lot of misunderstandings about how the law works in Thailand. I think the default position for a lot of people is to assume that as a foreigner here, you are powerless or near so. And of course, money does talk, maybe more so here than other places. That's the same around the world. But it's a very nuanced topic, and it's not as straightforward as that. So hopefully, after tonight's show, we can maybe talk and have you back on as a guest to talk about some of the other sort of hot button legal topics that foreigners might not know about or might want to learn more about. But I thought tonight we could start things off with something that has been in the news lately, and that is the big old question of foreigners owning land in Thailand. Dirty foreigners owning a piece of Thai dirt, which is frowned upon. So you were saying earlier that there's kind of a long history there. But can you talk more about that? Like, has that been something that's been discussed for a decade, 5 decades, 100 years?
Yeah, I think, I don't know when the current existing ban on foreign ownership of land came into existence, but it certainly was being talked about when I got here in 2010. So at that time, I was working for a smaller firm, actually right at the United Center down the street.
All right.
And so what we did there was a lot of property ownership, condo transactions, and that kind of thing. And I think from that time until now, it's probably come up 4 or 5 times in the news where they've had this big hubbub about foreigners being able to own a small piece of actual land,
right,
with a lot of restrictions and qualifications. And this most recent one, I think, was just another iteration of that, which then ended up getting tabled or shot down in Parliament.
Right. Right. I remember seeing the cartoon in the paper the other day, and it was a cartoon of Thailand. And then sitting on top of Thailand was a big like backhoe, and it was digging out chunks of Thailand and depositing it, outside of Thailand. But let's take a step back before we dig into the nitty gritty of that stuff. Land ownership here is complicated because foreigners can't own land. That's the standard line, but you can. There's a couple of workarounds. So let me ask you first about foreigners owning condos. You can own a condo, but you can't own the land.
Well, so what happens with condominiums is it actually turns one piece of land into umpteen separate deeds, one for each condominium unit in the place.
Right.
Each condominium unit has a registered area, right? And the area is 40 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters, square meters, whatever that is. And that's considered the saleable area, not the common area, but the saleable area. Okay. And less than 50% of that saleable area can be owned by foreigners.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. And so what you need to do if you want to buy a condo is to check and get a letter of certification from the condominium office that says that the piece of condominium or the condominium that you're buying is within the foreign quota is what it's called.
Right. Okay. So 51% has to be Thai quota, 49% has to be.
Basically, yes.
Okay, cool. So then let's kick things up a notch. What if you want to buy land? I've heard one way to do it as a foreigner is to start a company, which would be owned by Thai people, and then have that company buy the land. So a lot of people do that, but I've also heard that that's a little bit iffy, risky. How does that work?
Okay, so this comes down to an issue of what we call nominees or nominee shareholders, right? Nominee shareholders are people who are just put into a company to give it Thai nationality, right? So there'll be 51% at least ownership by Thai people. And that 51% Thai-owned company is considered a Thai person for purposes of purchasing a property. The problem with that comes in is if the Thai people are not qualified as actual shareholders and have not invested in the company, because I think back in 2008, the land department was put under an order to investigate down to the level of beneficial ownership. So even if there's a corporate structure in place, to investigate down to the level of the beneficial ownership to make sure that there's no nominees in the company and to make sure that the company is indeed Thai and can purchase the land.
Right.
So if you set up a company with I would say shareholders who can't demonstrate the means to be investors in the actual company, the transaction could get disallowed. And in fact, nominees in Thailand, it's a criminal problem, right? It's under the criminal code where they could be fined or sued or prosecuted for being nominees.
Thrown in the clink.
Possibly.
Yeah,
but we hope not.
Well, what a lot of people do is, the old story is that they have their maid or their friend's kid or their daughter's nanny or something like that as one of the nominees. So is that definitively illegal, or is that one of those gray area things?
I would say it's pretty definitively illegal, at least from what I've seen. There's things that people do to try to work around it or to avoid the investigation of the land office. But none of that, I guess that would be not okay, but I guess that would be all right if you're going to hold the property for forever. But if then you want to try to sell it at any point in time and the buyers, has their wits about them, it's going to be hard to offload that property.
Right. So that's one way to do it. So is there any other way that a foreigner can legally own land?
A foreign company can own land under the BOI.
Okay, that's the Board of Investment.
Yeah, that's the Board of Investment. So there's some exceptions there, but that doesn't usually encompass like a personal residence, right, or something like that. It's usually land that's being used for the business purpose.
Right. So it sounds like basically if you want to do it 100% legally, foreigners owning land, it just can't be done unless you want to get into some sort of this maybe gray areas or sketchy areas where you're building companies and nominating people and doing all the special sort of workarounds to get to it.
Yeah, I mean that was real popular back in the mid 2000s and up through probably 2012. It was pretty popular, yeah. And still people set companies up for that purpose, but it just comes with a level of risk, and that level of risk being you could lose your entire investment. So
that's a pretty big. All right, so that's pretty much a no then if you want to stay on the right side of the law 100%. The problem with a lot of things in Thailand, and this goes back to my early days running around doing border visa runs and stuff like that, is that they often make it so difficult to do things legally here that there's all these systems and infrastructure that has grown up and sprung up and set up to allow you to do things sort of slightly less than legally. So it's frustrating when you're stuck in this thing and you want to do something and you see other people doing it and you think, why not me? I can do that too. I got caught with that a long time ago with a bit of a visa issue, and it scared me straight, to be honest with you. Yeah, I had to jump through so many hoops and put up with so much crap and pay so much money that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do everything above board 100% from here on in. So, that's my legal advice.
So yeah, Greg, that's the way I tend to do things as well. And the way I recommend, of course, to all people and clients to do things the right way wherever possible. I guess the problem comes in is it becomes so easy and you're pushed by the people you trust or your own team or your own staff to do things the quote unquote easy way. But as your experience tells us, there probably 95% of the time you won't have a problem, but that 5% that you do have a problem, it ends up being a real problem. A real problem
for some people. Yeah, I was lucky and I had, it was relatively painless compared to what some people have gone through. So let's talk about the issue of like land ownership then. This particular law that they were talking about. Now, politics in Thailand is a bit boisterous. So was this sort of a populist move? Like, what was the impetus for putting this in?
I'm not sure really what was behind it. What I do know is that I didn't get excited when I saw it. I just said, well, let's wait it out. And it made it further, than I thought it would. But in the end, it came out to the same old, I would say, xenophobic tendency, which is if you let the foreigners buy land, they're going to own the whole country. Yeah. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But then it pretty quickly got killed. Right. And then it'll crop up maybe next year or the year after or 3 or 4 years.
Right.
Legal reform in Thailand may be another thing to discuss in the future.
Right. So do you think a lot of the lawyers were pushing for this? Like just thinking like, oh man, imagine all the money that must be paid in lawyers' fees and things like this. All these guys coming in who want to retire here or buy a hotel or whatever.
I don't know who was pushing it. I think the transaction fees for land transactions in Thailand are pretty hefty because of the amount of due diligence and whatnot that's required to get a piece of land or even a condominium in some cases. So, there was probably some push by people wanting to facilitate transactions. It's just hard to say. Sometimes it's the international business community that's able to catch somebody's ear and will put something in like this, and then of course they're very positive for a while, and then it gets stopped in its tracks, like this bill did, and so many before it.
Right. It all started with the foreigners being all uppity and demanding they pave Charon Krung Road going out to the to the suburbs. That's when they first got their way, and we haven't shut up since. It's funny because this is a really interesting issue, and it's exactly the type of issue that is not something that's black and white. Now, it's easy for someone like me, who's a foreigner here, to say, like, of course, I've been here 20 years. I should be able to buy land if I want to. I'm not going to put it in a box and take it out of the country. But you see places like Cambodia, where, a lot of, predominantly from what I understand, Chinese investors have taken Sihanoukville and turned it into sort of like this casino hellscape. And you see it in other countries too, like in Canada, even in Vancouver, a lot of Chinese and Middle Eastern investors are parking their money and buying up huge plots of land, and then they never use it, and it sits empty and idle for years and years. And all the businesses around suffer because there's no one living there. So it can really have a detrimental effect. So I think it's one of these things where you see it, and especially as a foreigner from a rather entitled position to say, oh, that's ridiculous, they should allow that, what could go wrong? But things can go wrong.
Yeah, I tend to agree with what you've said there. I mean, it's Thailand is not a gigantic country. And there's, the amount of wealth and money that can flow in from any number of sources could easily, buy up some prime land and displace, people who need the land and people who need to have a normal living. Plus, it'll push up the prices. I mean, the prices of land in Bangkok are already so high that if you add an element like that to allow, direct foreign ownership, I think it would push the prices much higher.
Right. And it's funny, again, from my privileged point of view, I always think like, we're going to allow foreigners to buy land. And you think, oh, all these, rich retired Westerners are going to come in and buy up a plot of land. But it's not always that. It's the Cambodians and the Burmese and people from Malaysia coming in too. So it's all the neighboring countries, which would probably be of a bigger concern than a couple of retirees from California moving in.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could be right, especially with the restrictions they put on this recent round that they were considering allowing for foreign ownership. Right, there was a high investment value, and so it seemed to cater more towards sort of regional, I would say regional successful people who wanted to own some land outside of their own country or park money, as you said. Right.
Right. Yeah. Right. So I mean, this law is not dead like a lot of laws in Thailand. I mean, right in the middle of the marijuana fiasco, it's going left and right and left and right. So this, like you said, it'll probably come back again. So from a legal perspective, what do lawyers look for? What do you think is going to happen? And like, how will something like this move forward if it is ever enacted?
Oh, well, the word on the street has been, again, for anyone who's been here for any length of time, anyone in the legal industry, which is pretty small here in Bangkok, it's like, this again, it can't possibly, it can't possibly make it through. If it were to make it through, or something, there was something similar were to make it through, I think it would require, a lot more support than it had now. As well as cooperation from all the departments, right? So the Ministry of Interior, I think, is the one that controls and ends up controlling the land distribution. And so you would really need to buy into the existing bureaucracy, not just, a whim of Parliament or whatnot. Actually, under the land code now, there is a provision to allow foreigners to own land.
Oh.
But it requires the actual signature of the Minister of the Interior to put it through. Which I've never seen a single one of those transactions go through in the 12 years I've been here. So it's sort of like there's an option there, but practically it's not possible to get it through.
You mean the law is waiting to be signed, or just individual?
No, there's an exception to in the land code.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So why is the exception there then? I mean, it must come from the same place that this whole land law.
Yeah, I think it was a legacy of a different time in Thailand, probably either pre or immediately post World War II, when there was a lot more freedom. In fact, if you look at some of the older hands here in law, they can be here, and there were lifetime work permits, right? So you look at guys like Al Chandler and David Lyman and the big old guys who are well-renowned founders of firms here, and they have a lot of legacy. They were able to be licensed here as lawyers, and but that all changed, I think, beginning about the 70s.
Oh, really? So you get a lifetime work permit here?
Yeah. There used to be a lifetime, just like there used to be a lifetime driver's license, right? So all that's
really,
yeah.
Oh,
but
wow.
That's gone by the wayside now.
So then, bringing it back to like the sort of overall question of purchasing, property and or land here. I mean, say I'm a guy and I got a couple of $1 million and I need to invest it, and I want to go buy a nice condo, or I want to set up a company to buy land, or I'm married and I want, my wife wants to buy land as it's for our family or something, whatever it is. What do I need to do? Who do I check with? What do I have to get signed? What kind of due diligence is the legal term? What needs to be done?
Yeah, due diligence is the term, and it's especially important here as opposed to some other places where the land title deeds and the deeding system is pretty settled and the borders are settled, and where rule of law is a lot more effective than sometimes it can be here. I think if you're looking at land, what you need to do, it depends a lot on where you're looking. If you're looking out on the islands, like Samui, for example, is pretty much a mess. Right. Phuket is a little bit difficult. Here in Bangkok, it's more settled, but you still need to, send somebody to the land office to take a look at the actual land title deed to make sure the one you've received a copy of is valid and has a good pedigree and history.
Not just some Khao San printer that printed it off and selling it.
Correct, which has happened many a time.
I have been told in years past to go to Khao San Road to get a paper here and there. So it does happen.
Certainly does. So
I could have been a yacht captain.
Oh,
yeah. But lesson learned.
For condos, it's a little bit simpler. You have two basic types of transactions for condos. You have on the plan and off the plan. Off the plan is where you buy the dream that the developer sells you in the future. So in those cases, it's important to make sure they own the land that they're going to build the condo on. Also important that's where the reputation of the developer comes in. So if you have a bigger developer such as Sansiri or some of the other big developers, major, you're a little bit safer that they're going to complete the project.
Right.
Once you get out of Bangkok and you get into, Pattaya, for example, you'll look at a type of condo project and it'll be by a small developer, and it may be their first or second project only. And in that case, the key is to understand whether the project is the construction of the project is financed by a bank or financial institutions, or whether it's funded by buyer money.
Oh,
so
right.
The trap that you get into a lot here is where they buyer fund, right? They fund the construction with the buyer, so their ability to construct the project depends on selling a certain number of units.
That's what's happening in the China property market right now.
So
they're using your deposit to build the other guy's condo, and then hoping,
right, and then hoping that they'll get enough to complete, or they'll do a big sales push and then go buy a yacht and sail away with everyone's money, or so there's a lot of, so when you're in a jurisdiction working with if you're in an area of Thailand working with a smaller developer, that's when you got to be really careful about the financial wherewithal of the developer, as well as to make sure they can deliver on what they're promising you. I've been on both sides of those transactions throughout the years, and it's no fun. I had to deal with probably about 100 angry British retirees who we couldn't finish their project.
Oh, really?
Not we. I mean, I wasn't the developer, but we were the lawyers for the developer, so I had to do a lot of management there. In the end, with that one, we had to ask them to pony up additional cash more than they've paid in order for them to be able to take possession of their units. Which,
wow.
They did. I mean, some people sold out and sold it to contracts to other people, but it was nasty business, right? But in the end, they were trapped, right? They had paid, some of them, a good portion of their retirement fees into purchasing this nice condominium unit, and it was pretty sad work, to be honest. I'm glad we were able to work it out, and then it was able to become a condo, and now everyone may not be happy, but at least they've got something close to what they were promised, even though it cost them an additional 20%. Right?
Wow. Yeah. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
Where do you go for this? Like, what kind of certifications are you looking for? What kind of promises can you watch out for that smell a bit too good to be true?
Yeah. So of course, you always want to make sure the price is somewhere around market value and not too good of a deal. 2, you want to, of course, send somebody or go to the land office to take a look at the underlying property. Usually it will be mortgaged, and they have to release that mortgage before they can transfer the first condominium unit. Also check the developer's financial statements. If they've been around for more than a year or two, they've had to file financial statements with the DBD, and that's free to find out on the website. Of course, you just look up the company name.
What's the DBD?
Department of Business Development. So dbd.go.th, I think, is the website. And you can look up any company. So you can look up any Thai company, any registered Thai company in that, and you can see their registered capital, their directors, and the last 3, 5, maybe 7 years of financial statements, right? So you can get a really good idea of what they've reported as their earnings. So that's a really good tool that was pretty useful over the years. And yeah, it's free to anyone. Also reputation, right? You need to the track record. If the developer's completed 5 projects, well, that's a pretty good track record for a small independent developer.
Right.
If it's their first project and it's very ambitious, it might be worth a little bit more investigation and checking in to make sure it's a good investment.
That's due diligence.
That's due diligence.
That's what you do. All right. So as we're wrapping up here, then let's think about the future. I mean, is this law has obviously come up before. It's been smacked down before. It's been smacked down this time. From your legal perspective, will this keep coming up again? Will it keep coming up in the same form until there's more public support, or will it have to be changed or altered until it's finally accepted, or will it just be killed and forgotten about?
Yeah, I think it's the sort of zombie law, right? It'll keep coming back to life, and then keep getting shot in the head as happens to these things time and time again. Again, I don't get too excited when I see them come up. I don't think it's fun to talk about on Twitter or whatnot, and everyone gets all riled up about it. But I just don't see it ever really coming into full force, at least within the time that you and I are going to be here.
Yeah, I think so. The whole foreign ownership thing is sensitive, and maybe more so here than what us foreigners are used to back home. It's not such a big deal in Canada. It doesn't matter where you come from. If you're Canadian, you're Canadian. If you're American, you're American. But in Asia, it works a little bit differently. So it's something to keep an eye on. Well, Dave, thanks a lot, man. That was really cool. Let's keep an eye on this, and hopefully we can have you back on the show to talk about some more issues in the future, because there's a lot of things that I think a lot of foreigners and listeners of the show are interested in learning more about, but might not know where to start. So again, where can they find you online?
Yeah, Greg, thanks so much. You can find me at Yar Pegleg on Twitter. That's my main interaction with the with the community here. Not so much law stuff, but more just it's a personal Twitter account. But I put some law stuff on there from time to time. Okay.
And what about your website for your company?
Website is www.pegleg.al.
Okay.
Which you can find. We have a little bit of information up there. I'm doing an upcoming webinar in December on when you need a lawyer, right? So when to hire a lawyer. What kind of things do you need a lawyer for? What kind of things don't you need a lawyer for? And if I've learned anything from watching movies, it's when your co-founder slams a computer on your desk and say, "You better lawyer up." That's when you call a lawyer. All right, Dave. Thanks a lot, man. That was really cool.
Thanks. Man, I'm so glad we finally did this. You and I have been talking about this for years. Because we need basically a legal correspondent because, my background is in law, but I haven't been a lawyer for 20 years. I've been teaching. So I think I can think like a lawyer, but I don't. I just don't do law in Thailand. I don't. So yeah. I don't know what Thai law says. Most of the time I have to Google it like everyone else. So having someone who works day to day dealing with legal issues that foreigners run into, I think we need to provide this. This is a good thing for the Bangkok podcast.
Right. Yeah. I think there's like 5 or 6 topics that I want to build shows around that we can talk about, Dave, in the future. But there's just interesting things, and I don't know about regular people or other people, but I just never think about, like, I don't have a lawyer. You're probably my lawyer.
That's sad. I'm your lawyer who used to be a lawyer in the distant past.
Well, that's what I think. I mean, how many just like regular folks have a lawyer?
Right, of course.
That they go to.
Right, unless you're a business person. Most people don't. You're right.
Right. So I think there's a lot of issues here living in Thailand that you probably could really benefit from having a lawyer
Absolutely.
take a gander at or read a contract or something like that.
For sure. Absolutely. And he seems like a nice guy. He seemed knowledgeable. He seems like he's got experience, like in a lot of different stuff. He's not a newbie. So I'm looking forward to this relationship we're developing.
Right. Yeah, super nice guy. So thanks, Dave, for coming down and chatting. And I thought it was really interesting that he started out as a chemist. He was like, this just isn't challenging enough for me. I'm going to go be a lawyer.
Usually things work the other direction. Just take it from me. It's usually like, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, and now I like sell mangoes on the side of the road. It's usually something like that.
Yeah, and I'm much happier.
Yeah, that's right. But no, I think he sounds perfect for the job, for the role. And I think our listeners can appreciate some of his legal wisdom.
Yeah, looking forward to doing more shows. So thanks again, Dave. We'll talk to you soon.
For sure.
All right, let's do some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us picks a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we discuss to decide if it's something we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept as something that we just have to learn to live with no matter how we feel about it. Now, last time Ed asked me what I thought of hard Thai mattresses. So this week I'm going to ask you a question. So Ed, you're a regular fella, and regular fellas like dessert after a meal.
True that.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Now, barring any discussion of your vegetarian status, so taking that out of the picture,
Okay.
what do you think when you go for a nice meal and you're like, all right, time for some dessert, and the tray comes out and it is fruit?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, to me that's not a real dessert.
All right, same. Yeah,
It's tough. Yeah, I don't like it. It's funny because you and I have talked about this. Like in general, you and I are just not into Thai desserts. I mean, would you say that's a fair? I think that's a fair characterization, right?
That's a fair characterization, but
general.
I'm not talking about specifically Thai desserts. I'm just talking about
right.
Like,
no, but you're right. But it's like in general, I don't remember being back home in the States where, the restaurant is like, hey, let's here's the dessert tray and it's fruit. I don't remember that.
No, that doesn't happen because fruit is not dessert.
Right.
It's fruit.
Yeah, like I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you. So yeah, I got a thumbs down on that. But in general, there's not many Thai desserts I like except mango and sticky rice. It's like mango and sticky rice is epically good. So if that's and then there's other desserts that I like that are not really, like a lot of Thai restaurants have like tiramisu, but that's not Thai.
Right. Well, that's what I think. And the funny thing about this is that the Thais probably have it right. Like a slice of pineapple and a few rose apples or something should be dessert because that's healthier and that's
it should
a nice
be. No,
way to
okay,
live
you're right.
meal.
You're right. Like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with fruit. Like I'm pro fruit, but yeah,
totally.
It should be. You're right. It should be dessert.
It should be. We should be happy to get it. But as Westerners, we've had our taste buds warped.
That's right.
Thing. I want cake and mousse and creamy things for dessert.
That's
unhealthy things.
That's right. No, I'm with you. But the other weirder, and it's not just Thai. It's like, and it's so weird. I mean, again, we've talked about it before, but in the States, I loved Chinese food. I was into Thai food before I came to Thailand, and there's so much Thai food I like. But there's something about Asian cuisine in general. When they roll out their Asian desserts, 90% of it, I'm like, what is this? Why am I eating this? So it's a funny thing, considering that there's so many main courses that I think are so much better than so much Western food. Like there's so many Asian dishes where I'm like, this is just better. Like I love Indian food. I love Thai food. I love Chinese food. It's just complex and the flavors, it's just better.
Right.
And then it's like dessert time. And I'm like, do you got any apple pie? Like, where's
no doubt.
And then, so it's funny that just, I like Western desserts better. And we don't serve just fruit for dessert. We don't do that.
No, fruit is fruit and fruit is great. But I want some creme brulee, man. I want some chocolate cake. I want some cheesecake.
I'm with you. Agree 100%.
Yeah. I think it's a live with for me.
Live with. Yeah, I guess it's live. The bottom line is because I like fruit and that I know it's healthy. I guess I'll have to go live with. But it really should not be a dessert. Let's just say that.
I'm down with that.
All right. A final thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping support the show. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We are Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
That's right. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. You can send us a voicemail through our website that we'll feature on the show, or even reach out to me directly on Twitter where I'm BKKGreg. So thanks for listening, everyone. Take it easy out there. I'll see you back here next week.
Like a fruit plate is a thing in the West, but I don't remember it being a fruit plate is a thing, but it's not a dessert. It's like a side dish.
Yes, exactly.
It's not like, okay, it's dessert time. Here's a fruit plate. I have no memory of that.
Yeah, if someone brought out a plate of fruit after dinner, and in most in places that I'm familiar with, the people are like, "What the fuck? Where's the Black Forest cake?"